Welcome back, aliens. I'm Navin Reddy from Telusko Learnings, and so we have done so many things, right? And till now, we have not seen something called as array. Now, if you remember, if you have worked on any language, maybe C, C++, Java, you must have seen the concept of array, right? Now, what exactly this array means? Now, when you have a collection of elements, so if you have a number of variables, and if you want to work them together, instead of creating 4 to 5 variables separately, we can create one array. So instead of saying 5 variables, we can create an array of 5 elements. But then how can we do that in Kotlin? So it's very simple actually. So let's say if you have a variable and if you say that variable is nums. Now instead of having one value in nums, let's say if I want to have 4 values in nums, and those 4 values are maybe 10, 12, 14, 16. So I want these values. To do that, if you want to assign values, it's very simple actually. In Kotlin, we have a function called as in-default function called as int array of. So you can simply say int array of, and in this bracket you can mention the values. So the values you want is 10, 12, 14 and 16. So if you want to assign static values, this is so simple. Just use int array of, and you can specify the value there, and you have all your values in this nums. Okay, now how do we print it? So let's try to print nums here. So if I try to print nums and if I run this code, let's try which is printing all the values. And okay, we're taking some time, and as you can see in Java as well, we get the same output, right? So we are getting the hash code, and then this is hash code of an array. What if you want the individual values? So it's very simple actually. What you can do is you can use a for loop to print all the values. So we'll use a for loop, and we'll say I in nums, and let's print individual values. Let's print I. And now if you run this code, and of course when you have a for loop where you have only one statement, you don't actually need that curly brackets. And if I run this code, you can see we got the values, which is 10, 12, 14 and 16. Now how do we create an array? It's very simple. Simply use int array of, and then you can specify the values. Now can we change the values of it? Example, if I assign the value as 10, 12, 14 and 16, let's say if I want to change the value of 14, how do we do that? Now, if you remember, when you talk about array, you always refer with index numbers, right? So to refer the first element, we use index number 0. So the index number starts with 0. So this is 0, this is 1, and then the second one, okay, where is that? So this is 2, and this is 3, right? So we have these index numbers. I want to change this 12 to 13. So let me just change this value from 12 to 13. To do that, what I will do is I will say nums. Now in array, we always use this square bracket. So if you want to change a value, if you want to specify the index number, you just specify 1 for 12, right? So 0 is 10. So the index number 0 has a value 10. Index number 1 has a value 12. So we'll say num of 1 is equal to 12, right? Oh, sorry, not 13. So we have to make the number as 13. And let's save and let's run. Let's see what happens now. After running the code, you can see we got 10 and 13. So of course, we can do that. The same thing is possible in other language as well. We can use this in C, C++, and Java. Now Kotlin says, even in Java, arrays are objects, right? And when you say arrays are objects, it should have some methods using which you can set the values and get the values. Because working with the square bracket is not comfortable for everyone. There are some people, they believe when you want to assign the values, we should be using a method like maybe something like set or get. Is it possible here? Let's say if I want to print this, if I want to change this value, but not using this syntax. So we can do that. We'll say nums of, okay, nums dot, we can use a set method. Can you see that we do have a set method, which takes your index number first. So we'll specify 1, comma, 13. So I want to replace that value with 13. So instead of using the square bracket, we can also use a method set. And let's run this now. And okay, it's taking some time. Okay, so as you can see, we got the value as 13. So we can either use a square bracket, or we can use a method which is set. Okay, now how do we fetch the element? Let's say if I don't want to print all the elements, I want to print a specific value. I want to fetch this 16. Of course, the 16 is at location 3, right? Index number 3. So I will say nums dot. Again, we can use a square bracket here. We can say nums of 3. So it will fetch the value at index number 3, and let's print not system.out.println. We'll use println. Okay, let's do that. And again, we don't need semicolon here. Let's run this code, and as you can see, we got the output as 16. So we got the output as 16. Okay, so this is one way. The another way is, you guessed it right, we can also use a method get, using which you can specify the index number, which is 3. And let's run this code. Okay, it's taking some time. Okay, as you can see, we got the value which is 13 here. Oh, sorry, 16 here. So at index number 3, we have value 16. Now, let's say if I don't know the last value, so do we have anything called as size here? So if I say nums dot size, can you see that we got size? Okay, so nums dot, or do we have some other method using which okay, so do we have, well, so it gives you the last value. I don't know, will it work? So instead of saying get, let's say nums dot last. Will it give me last value? Let's try. I don't know, I've never tried this before. Let's run this code. And okay, can you see that we got the value which is 16? So yes, so it provides you lots of methods to work with. So yeah, so it gives you lots of other methods like set, get, last. It also gives you size for the size of the array, right? Okay, now thing is, if you want, so this is the array which has the static values, right? We know the values were 10, 12, 14, 16, so it was working. But what if you want to create an array where you don't know the size, or you don't know the values? You know the size, the size will be 4, but you don't know the values. Now, how do we create an array where you don't know the values? In that scenario, what we will use, we will not use int array of, because int array of, imagine that you will pass the parameters that at the same time. Instead of that, we'll use a special class in Kotlin called as int array. And in this int array, in this bracket, you have to mention 4. So when you say 4, it means you have an array of 4 values. So let's remove this, delete this code, and let me just uncomment my for loop. Right, and oh, what's that? I just need to uncomment it, and let's remove this part. Okay, now let's set the value. So we'll set the value at a 0th location. So again, you can do that here. We'll say nums dot set. Let's set the index number 0 as 10. If you don't know the values pre-hand, we can do that. So we can create a dynamic array. Or we cannot say dynamic array, but the values are coming later, right? So we'll say 2, 14, and then we can do with the third value. Instead of that, we could have copied this before, so that we could have saved some time, but let's try. So if I say 3, and if I assign the value 16 here, okay, let's run this once again, and I'm guessing I will be the same output. Yeah, so we got 10, 13, 14, and 16, right? So we can create an array if you don't know the values pre-hand. So if you know the values pre-hand, we can use int array of, otherwise we can use int array. Both works. Okay, this is for int, right? What if you want to use float? What if you want to use double? So don't worry, in that case, you already have those classes. Can you see that if I say control space, not here, okay, that's weird. What's happening? Okay, so if I say double array, can you see that we also have double array, we have float array, we have char array. So we have all those array types. So for inbuilt data type like primitive, we have all those arrays. What about string? What if you want to create an array of string? Okay, in that scenario, what you have to do is we have to say arrays. Now it is not just for string, we can use it for other type as well. So we'll say array of. So we can see we have our option of array of nulls, because if you don't know the values, of course, you cannot specify that, right? So we have to specify arrays of null, and in this you have to specify the class name. So if you want to get an array of string, we can say string. If you want to get array of student, you can say student, provided you have a student class, of course. And we don't have a class as of now, but let's try with string. So we'll say arrays of null, and we can provide a string there. In this bracket, you have to specify the size. Let's say if you say 5, this array will have 5 elements. Again, you can try it out by yourself. Assign the values here, but you have to make sure that you are assigning a string value, and then you can print it out. It works, right? So that's how you work with string. That's how you can create your own object of student, or maybe any other class for that matter. Now, the thing is, if you can see in the main itself, we are using this array. how do we use this array, and how can we what are the other syntax available. So in fact there is one more syntax available for array. We cannot discuss that now because we have not seen higher order functions now. So once we talked about that, once we talked about lambda expression, we'll come back to array once again, and we'll see how this works. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this session, and do share this video with your friends, and do like, and thank you so much for watching.